Welcome to the Fathers of the Future podcast. I am joined by a return guest, my brother, Rich Abril. November 2021, experience number 74. And I just got done listening to it as you and I have been in each other's corner going on about 6 years now as a student of Fathers of the Future, as a coach, as a brother, as a friend, as somebody who I admire and look up to for not only his service in the Marines as a lifelong Marine who just retired after 21 years.
That's right, 21.
Yeah, congratulations. I thought it would be great to have you back on the show to talk about life, where you're at, where you're headed, what you've been through, and ultimately, you know, the shift that oftentimes is not planned or scheduled, that God throws at you, that you have to deal with, unintentionally planned, but you are a tough SOB. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure anybody who knows you and can attest to that. Your background, your upbringing, your roots have really, made you who you are. But you also have 3 girls and a wife, and so there is a definite emotional side to you. This last season has been challenging, to say the least, in a different way than what you're used to. Grit is one of those words that I would use to identify you. And just kind of walk us through, since retiring after 21 years, what you've been dealing with, and some of the shifts that you've had to make to not fight, and fight in a positive word, to deal with some of the things you've dealt with. You've had to learn quite the opposite, to learn how to sit, mm-hmm. learn how to be, learn how to create peace when there's constant chaos, or the term that we like to use, that violent energy. Mm-hmm. And so just catch us up to speed, man. What was this 21 years like for you, and how'd you feel coming out of retirement and kind of now the season that you're in and where you're headed? Because you're starting to do a lot of men's work, which is also extremely valuable to the healing process and growing.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Luke. Thanks for having me here again. 5 years. A whole lot has happened in the last 5 years, and a whole lot has happened in the last 21 years, serving in the Marines. And even before that, just growing up, like you talked about roots and stuff, and how it's molded me and shaped me to the person I am today, and there's so much, behind that. I've been doing so much work recently because of the circumstances, and just peeling those layers back of really like what I've experienced my entire life, and there was so much that I've stuffed away or just put in the dark, and saying, hey, I'll get back to that later, that I never did. And it just kept piling it on. In the Marines, you picture a Marine, attacking the hill, and he's got his big ass pack on him. And I was like, that's how my entire life felt. Like this pack that I just kept putting stuff away, I'll get back to it. And I never really slowed down enough to just make time to do that. And, it's just growing up, there was that piece, and I've talked about it at the Rise, at 26. I talked about when I was younger, it was really framed as survival at that point. I was just kind of doing what I needed to do to not be a burden to everything else that was happening around, and then somewhere along the way, it shifted to becoming performance. I tried to go find value or a belonging on how I showed up. I performed. I just adapted to who I was around, what was going on, in order to just experience like the love or the connection of other people. And it wasn't always in healthy ways, but I was part of something, so I checked that box to justify, what I did and how I showed up. And the Marines really just almost encouraged that performance aspect of things and survival, both. It was just an elevated experience, I guess. Now I had tools, though. They gave me tools to how how to present myself, my posture, the way I showed up, the wave of energy that I created in any room I walked into, the violent energy, you know, it was just very heavy, very thick, very like, oh shit, there's this guy, there's Rich, you know, there's Abril, you know, there's Hopi, you know, and it was one of those things where I liked it. I liked being able to step into that role and perform, and then get the value, the worth behind, you know, all the things that I was doing, the unnecessary motherfucker, I guess you can call it. You know, I can influence a room in a way that got the attention that I was seeking, you know, but it was reaching for something that I just didn't know what, but it felt good in the moment, so that's what I did, you know, and I did that for a long time, and I know 5 years ago, or even throughout it all, I you know, married Stella, you know, had the girls, and along the way, you know, it shifted, but it was still a sense of performance in a way. Like now I had this role of a father, of a husband. Okay, what can I do, you know, to be a good husband? What could I do to be a good father? But it was the same thing. It was framing it in a different way, you know. And I fucked it up so much, man. Just trying too hard, you know. And then because of all the shit that I was carrying, like it showed up in ways that I just wasn't aware of at the time. So my fuse was short. I was angry a lot. That's where the violent energy comes in. I was really trying to force a lot of like what was around me into this box so I can try to carry it, and it just wouldn't work. I couldn't carry it. It was too much. So it was the control that I was looking for, you know. And when I didn't get that, I throw this fucking man fit, and it was just, yeah. It came out in a lot of different ways, just to be intimidating, or just a lot of different ways, man. And I carried that for a long time, and I remember, like, in the podcast, you know, using your voice. I always encouraged my girls to use their voice, because on one hand, I didn't want them to be obedient. You know, in the Marines, obedience is encouraged. You know, once you get rank, you know, it's in the promotion warrant. You know, everyone to render, you know, obedience to those of a higher grade. You know, it's in there. It's like an oath you take. Like, everybody has to listen to you. If I can give you the knife hand, you better do what I say. You know, but on the other hand, I wanted my girls to be able to use their voice and stand strong in who they were and figure that out on their own, you know, and it was tough. It was a tough balance. It was hard to give them that freedom to do that.
Did the retirement force you to make that shift?
So as I went through it, there's a series of things, small things along the way that get you to the point of really just getting your head out of your cargo pocket. You know, it's not just one big thing. Yes, the big thing where your ass hits the bottom, you know, it does open up your eyes, but when you sit there long enough to just basically slow the fuck down and understand, like, why am I here? You realize that it was like a series of choices that you made that put you where you are now. And if it wasn't for me, or if it wasn't for life or God, or whoever throwing this fucking brick at me to slow me the fuck down physically, I would have never been able to see those things. The series of choices and the experiences that I had with Stella, with the girls, with life, with alcohol, with all the things. You know, it just putting it all those different parts together to realize, like, oh man, okay, there's a lot I'm holding on to. There's a lot. No wonder I fell down here. No wonder fucking life threw a brick at me to slow the fuck down. Because I always masked and coped and dealt with life through my physical capability. You know, I've always been able to just push through. Well, I'll just go out here and do this, or I'll just go out and run, or I'll go find a mountain, or I'll go fucking roll with some dudes, you know, and do all the things. You know, and that was my way of just kind of loosening the grip on what I was holding on to in life. It was my outlet. And I retired, you know, June 2025, so just over a year ago, you know, and I was like, shit, all right, I'm retired. I can fucking just chill now and just do what I need to do, you know. And then literally 7 days after my retirement date, life had other plans for me, you know, and I found myself in the emergency room. And it was one of those things where literally just sitting on it and ignoring it and saying it'll get better, he'll all push through. And it didn't happen. Fast forward to now, 5 surgeries later. Really, I mean, my entire life is flipped upside down. I can't do the physical things. I mean, I can, but there's going to be some natural consequences to those things, and it's going to set me back. You know, and when I first was put on my ass, it was dark. It was difficult for me, to say the least. You know, it went against like absolutely everything that I was. My entire identity was my physical capability. I really depended on that entire aspect of who I was.
Your entire career?
Everything. Mm-hmm. Everything. Competing physically, doing the things physically, pushing myself physically. It was just really about that. It was just the performance aspect of it. You know, it was like, I can fucking push, let's go, you know, challenging these young Marines coming through and just really just pushing the edges on that physically. Never really slowing down enough to understand how I was operating in other aspects. I can acknowledge, I can rattle off, you know, the hard times and the setbacks that I've had. Those were easy to rattle off and put on a list, you know, but to really just go back to that part of like who I was, you know, the unnecessary motherfucker or the loud guy in the room or the one who really pushed people to feel uncomfortable but get it done anyways. To go back there and just have that dialogue with him was something I had to do, because I was in a really dark place. Not just after it put me down, but each surgery really challenged like my entire existence, you know. And I think the last one, well, not the last one because I've had a couple other ones, but I think in December when I had that surgery, then January of this year was probably really dark for me. Like I didn't want to be here.
Because you had to redefine and rewrite your identity, yeah, or because you felt like you were having to start out at ground zero, or both?
I think it's all the above. I mean, one, the shame and the guilt of the feeling like I was a burden to my family. You know, and it makes me sad. It makes me sad that I went there. It makes me angry that I allowed myself to get to that point too. You know, like I should have did this or I should have did that, but I didn't, you know. And so just getting to the point of the acceptance of like, I made a choice, conscious or unconscious, I made a choice to like, again, push myself to get to this point. I chose, like, taking ownership of it was not easy. Accepting my reality was not easy. You know, and I think after I hurt my shoulder in February, towards the tail end of like January, it really kind of sunk that ship of like, oh my God, like I keep doing this. I keep fucking setting myself back. I keep putting this fucking limit on like what I'm capable of doing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just like, I keep doing it.
And in that dark spot, how did you recover and get out of it? Because I think that's a really important piece. Yeah, so many of the men, you know, watching and listening to this podcast have seen me talk about men's mental health, know that we had a brother who took his own life a few months back, and becoming very open in dialogue about how men suffer and in many ways get into that dark place and seem to feel that they don't have a way out. Mm-hmm. And so you're living proof of someone who not only, you know, found his way out of the dark, but climbed his way out. And in that process, you know, learned something about himself and how to do this, and what can he share with others about that. We obviously know the veteran suicide rate is so high. We know that it's, you know, 5 times in men than in women. And so how would you give the framework behind your recovery in this year alone?
Yeah. So that's a good question. it's a difficult question, because it's never just the one thing, it's never just, it's like when you're fighting or you're rolling and you got your coach fucking yelling at you like, just stand up, or something. Like, well, no shit. It's not that easy. There's a lot that's on you. And the one thing that I thought put me there, the surgeries, the setbacks, was not the thing that put me there. It was just a thing that happened to create the awareness of what really put me there. And again, it's not just the thing that I experienced, and it's really difficult to explain to men or to people of like how. It's really just like putting yourself in situations where you can witness other men or witness people talk about what their challenges are, talk about like what their experiences are. And it's so important because for a long time I thought I can do this by myself. I was capable, right? I was physically capable of like pushing through a lot, and I've done it my whole life. Like, I figured it out. I survived. I'm here, and I faced a lot of like shitty situations. I've also experienced a lot of like amazing situations. And it's the collective experience of understanding that I've done a lot of things, alone. I've had to figure out a lot of things, but when I realized that a lot of the great things that I've experienced, I've always had some people around me that were there, where I felt love, I felt like heard, valued, all the things, without them telling me like, hey, you're okay, you're good. They were just in a position where they just shared the space with me, and I felt safe. I felt okay to just be whoever I needed to be. I saw their vulnerabilities. They were willing to do that for me. And I think that's a lot of that, of being able to see other people, to witness other people, to witness other men, really almost just gave me permission to be like, oh, fuck. Like, I'm not alone. Like, it's dark, but there's people around me. I'm just not seeing it. And it's because I've done a lot of work.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of work even before these, like January, February this year. Like, I've done so much work, and still yet I felt so alone in a crowded room, and I know a lot of men feel like that, because I know I felt like that too. And I can't be the only one that feels that, because I've witnessed so many other men feel that and talk about that. And that's why I encourage like men specifically, but just people in general, like even my girl, like, put yourself in situations where you can witness other people. It's so important. There's so much power in that, because it was difficult for me to speak about how I felt. It was difficult for me to even just articulate how I felt. I don't fucking know. I'm mad. It was like, fuck, I'm fucking pissed off. I'm angry because I can't figure it out. And that was the problem. Trying to figure all this shit out. Trying to understand. And that was the part that I was circling with. Trying to figure it out, trying to understand, trying to logic my way out of a fucking situation, because that's what I did. I fucking had a mission, and the intent was to fucking get results out of that mission, right? And after action report was like, okay, what did you do? Well, I did this, I went right, went left, I did this, that, and this. But it never talked about like, okay, well, what did you feel about like that? Like, did you feel like that was the right thing to do? Did you adjust where you needed to do? I know we told you to go right and you had to get to that point, but what did it feel like in your body, and like where at in your body? Not just like I felt scared or I felt angry or I felt sad. Where did you feel that? Well, I felt it right here in my gut, my belly. I go, where at? Where else? And it's kind of going down that whole feeling of it. And I wasn't comfortable doing that because it felt weird. It felt a little too woo-woo for me, or whatever. But when I started witnessing other men talk about things like that, like, I felt the same things. I just didn't know how to say it.
Or the environment that you were able to put yourself into to have those conversations.
Yeah.
The follow-up to that framework is, how much now, looking back, do you fill that gap with your service and not in the military, but now your service to helping other men. You know, I've said it all the time. If I didn't do this work, I'd be messed up. I may not be here. Like, if I don't constantly take the center off of me and my ego and what I'm thinking and feeling, and can actually put it on someone else, right, and witness and ask those questions and be in that space, it helps me heal.
Yeah.
Right? So now you're in some of these circles. You're creating some of these circles. You've been a guest coach in, you know, probably over 20 crucibles since yours in the past 5 years, and continue to do that. In the process of getting out of the dark, like, that's the big one that I'm, you know, challenging to get answers for, is like, when someone's in the dark, when you were in the dark, you know, how quickly can you recover, find the awareness, and then go into service mode and serving someone else, so you stop, in many ways, selfishly thinking about yourself and what you're going through.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's human, you know, and when you accept that you're human, it changes a lot. I'm telling you. My wife Stella told me that when I first went down with all this, was she came to a realization that I'm human. And she had me on this pedestal of how I was, how I showed up, and I felt that. I probably didn't understand or know that. And that's how I showed up, was, you know, and like all right, pull up my britches and show up and be this force of energy for my wife and for my family.
Robotic, mechanical,
Like a machine.
automated.
Yeah. It's almost like I was trying to live up to what was given to me, the roles or the titles, you know, and like, you're a husband. Oh shit, okay, I gotta show up like the husband's supposed to show up. What does that mean? Be a protector, be a provider, be strong, be a pillar. You know, you're a father. Okay, same thing. I gotta teach, I gotta coach, I gotta be strong, I gotta be a pillar for my girls. You know, I gotta do all these things. You know, well, you work in a business too, so I got to show up. I got to be professional. I got to fit into this square box, you know, and show up that way. Hey, you volunteer with this organization. Like, oh, okay, well, they also have, you know, values and things like that, and I'm expected to be, you know, perform in this manner too. There's so many things as a man, just in general. As a man, I got to take care of those around me. I got to keep the environment safe. You know, some people will probably define a man differently, but those were the things that I learned, and how I defined, you know, what was given to me. You know, there's so many things, you know, when she told me you're human, it was like, fuck, it fucking deflated me. Like, holy shit. She popped that little enthusiastic bubble, and like, here I come, deflated, falling down. You know, I'm already down, but like, shit, I didn't realize I can go fucking down even more.
Did that happen when you were in that dark spot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's part of it too. You know, now that I kind of went there, was I have the privilege of having these women in my life that are not soft. You know, they don't tell me the things to keep me doing the things that I'm doing. They tell me the shit that's real. They tell me like the patterns. They bring up those things. They call me out when I'm being a little bit, you know, charged up in situations, because I still do.
They tell you what you don't see.
Yeah.
And in that, you've used this word a couple times, anger, as an emotion, and not always a healthy one.
Yeah.
You can't heal when you're angry. You said that outside in the truck when we were talking, right?
Yeah.
That's physical, mental, emotional, it's metaphorical, you name it.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into that. A lot of the men that we know that are part of this movement, that have kids, don't even realize that that's the energy that they're projecting.
Yeah.
and it is unhealthy. You can be a protector and a provider without being angry.
Yeah.
Right? Alcohol magnifies anger. I don't care who you are. You can be a happy drunk. There's still those bouts of rage that happen because somebody's drinking. But if we were to unpack that piece about your healing, that's the biggest shift.
Yeah.
And so you've replaced that emotion, or at least subdued it in many ways, right? Still needs to be there. There's got to be a switch, but it's caused you to really change and shift your approach, especially at home, right? So how would you, explain how someone has to be aware of that first? And oftentimes it is, your spouse or your kid. But how would you explain that to somebody listening, possibly for the first time, who finds themselves coming home from work and there's spilled milk, and that spilled milk is not the end of the world, but they treat it as if it's, the worst thing that's ever happened to them, and before you know it, they're blowing up.
Yeah.
Their kids are scared. Their wife is upset, and they find themselves now, running away in the garage, going for a walk, or heading to the bar. How do you coach that up in somebody, right?
Yeah, it's tough because at the surface, that spilled milk, the reaction is like, I fucking told you, like, be careful. 2 hands when you're carrying a glass across the room, stuff like that pushes you to the edge because you've told them once, and now you have this expectation of like how it should be. So when you navigate your environment and you've already mentioned it before and it's still happening, it's like it pisses you off. Pissed me off. Pisses me off. That's how I operated. Long time, with especially like in the military. It's like, motherfucker, like, dude, I fucking told you this like so many times. Like, get your head out of your fucking ass and just get the shit done the way that it needs to get done so we can move on. I don't have time to deal with this. And one of the privileges that I was talking about was like, yes, I have a wife and I have children that can bring a lot of things to my attention. But if I don't have the capacity to receive that, I was like, all I'm gonna do is defend myself in my position. I'm gonna get louder. So how do I get to that point of like being able to just like receive that without, well, not without, because it's still there. The anger's still there. It's the acceptance of like, okay. It's the acceptance of all these little humans around me. It's the acceptance of how my wife shows up. It's providing an environment where she feels like she doesn't have to brace to be who she needs to be. And that's probably one of the most difficult things that I've had to learn, that I'm still learning, that I'm still working on, is creating that environment where she doesn't have to brace to be who she needs to be. We've always talked about being individuals together. She's allowed to be who she needs to be, and she has the freedom to love me the way that she needs to love me. And those are great words on the wall, but how do you actually have that type of environment? It's a lot of work, to say the least. It's a lot of work. And when I stopped searching for the answers, especially when I don't even know what questions I have to ask, it's this whole physical thing that slowed me the fuck down has become kind of like an internal mantra for myself. Like, slow the fuck down, shut the fuck up and listen. I tell that to myself a lot. Harsh language, perhaps, I don't know. It's okay for me, but use what you need to. But it really is just like when I'm faced with the situation of spilled milk or whatever the situation is, because there's always something happening in the house. They're fucking kids and they're all over the place, and they're new to a lot of things, and they're going to be tempted by a lot of things. They're going to be exposed to a lot of things that don't align with what you believe and how you operate. It's going to happen. And how am I preparing to face those situations instead of trying to beat it out of them? And those are examples of like outside of myself. I too experience a lot of those things, that the thoughts that I have, the things that I carry where not a lot of people know, and it doesn't align with what I believe. It doesn't show up on like how I really want to operate, but it's there, and I probably do and think and and behave in those ways where nobody else sees it. You know, it's on my phone, it's on my computer, it's maybe I'm having a drink in the garage before I go inside, you know, things like that. Like, those are the things that I struggle with. The thoughts that I have, like, my mind has a tactical advantage over me. It knows how to pull me back and default me to the old ways of like how Rich was, you know, and it doesn't align with who I want to be, you know, and who I want to become, and the type of man that I want my daughters to be influenced by, you know, and as a husband to Stella, you know, and when I shift the focus to identifying or being more aware of like those parts of who I am, and instead of trying to beat those out of me or shove them away, I became more curious, and I think that has helped me get to a position where I'm able to now contain what's outside of me. And again, it's kind of hard to explain, but the anger that I feel when shit is already, like, my day is already fucking full. And then something happens, like Olivia or Layla or Allie, you know, something happens, you know, and I don't have fucking time for this right now. At least that's the thoughts that come through my head, is like, I don't have time for this right now, or I'm like, fuck, you know, and I feel like the unsettling feelings like going on inside of myself, like, God damn it, you know, like, I gotta get, like, fuck, like, what are you doing? You know, all these things, this is all like an internal dialogue of like what it is. I've learned to just slow the fuck down, shut the fuck up, and listen and assess the situation differently now.
That's part of your OODA loop.
Oh, dude, it's part of it. It's like I think there's another guy that talks about that, is like taking a couple steps back and really like looking at the landscape, looking at your environment, and then seeing which way you can, which avenue you can approach, you know, to get to the objective. You know, there's a lot of tactical ways you can do things. You know, there's more than one way you can do things. But I'm navigating new territory of an emotional, tactical environment. I can't force out things outside of myself to be the way they need to be, and it's hard to accept, but you have to accept it. You can't. You can, by them being scared of you. They can have fear around you and get shit done, but is that really the connection that you desire? You know, and no, it's not. So it's the internal dialogue. It's the internal parts of who I am. It's all the things that I've experienced, to go back and reconnect with those things, and really holding space for myself to be angry inside, and allowing myself to just be angry with me. And it's a really hard thing to explain, but I know the process that I go through when I experience certain things, and I have to go back, and it's almost like going back and journaling about those things and reflecting on those things. It's not just putting a bunch of words on a piece of paper and reading through it and be like, okay, cool, and analyzing it. It's not analyzing anything, because now you're just collecting more data and trying to figure it out. You're trying to understand. That's not the point. The point is not trying to understand something. The point is really trying to just is accept it. You know, I don't know another word to say it, but it's the acceptance of what you experienced, and how you experienced, and what it felt like to experience it. It's like all the things. It's not trying to understand the shit, because then you're just trying to understand how to perform. It's my daughter, performative. It's performative. What does she call it? She calls it a LARP, a live action role playing. Like a fucking LARP.
That's good.
Live action role playing, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell does that mean? She's like, it's what it is. It's you're performative.
Yeah.
You're performing. I'm like, oh shit, I like that.
And in that awareness piece of having, you know, great women in your corner who can, you know, tell you when you're in your blind spot, you've began doing service work, men's work, creating containers, part of the West Valley Mavericks, obviously the stuff you do with us at Fathers of the Future. Are you able to see big picture how much of that helps support you so that you can then help support others? Like, that upward spiral of success is built off of you, the awareness, the healing, the learning, and then the teaching, right? Learn, live, lead. That circle is allowing you to continue to grow and heal yourself, as well as help teach, coach, and lead others to heal themselves.
Yeah. You know, I put myself in a lot of situations, you know, I fill the gaps. You know, I'm retired, let's go do this. You know, but there was always something more, you know, and it wasn't so much of me like I want to be a men's coach, I want to lead other men, I want to do all these things, and I had those limiting beliefs of like I don't want to do this, I don't want to be that. I'm like, well, hold on, just stop, slow the fuck down, shut the fuck up, and listen to what your thought process is right now. Be who you need to be while you're meeting the moments with these men. Like, these men might need a fucking coach right now. These men might need to just fall into this container that you have. Be who you need to be. Stop resisting like how you're supposed to show up in where you're at. So I had to release that. I had to loosen that grip, because yes, I want to be able to share this space with men so they give themselves permission to just acknowledge and accept like where they are right now, because it's so important. I use that as a starting point. Like, my whole thing is like, what's alive in you right now? Like, what's charging you up? Like, what are you carrying right now, man? Like, let's go there. Let's start there. Like, shit, I don't know what I did 10 years ago or how I was. I could probably rattle off like, well, fucking 10 years ago I was an alcoholic and I did this. Like, it's cool. I'm glad you can put that on the wall too. You know, oftentimes we have all these catchphrases and all these things and they just become fixtures on the wall and stuff like that, but we never really pull the layers back to understand like why was that important to you? Like, what did that mean to you? You know, and the environment I'm trying to create right now, that I am creating right now, is just to meet men where they are right now. Like, what do you got going on? What's your greatest challenge right now, man? Like, well, fuck, you know, like I just separated and I'm going through this, or my worth is struggling, or, you know, whatever it is. You know, it's just being able to just name it and then talk about it, however it comes out. It doesn't, like, that was one of the biggest struggles that I had, was like, I don't fucking know how to name my emotions, let alone tell the story around it. You know, and that was one of the things that held me back from even just sharing. You know, so I avoided putting myself in situations where I might be seen, or
because you could default to the physical as well.
Yeah.
Right. So we have a tactical video that went viral of you and I in the ring that we'll put in there, and you know, that video got a couple million views because of the environment, the experience, the set and the setting, and ultimately us wrestling and grappling for a weapon to close out that round, right? And so to me, that is the pinnacle of training, combat, tactically, being aware, being prepared, and either kill or be killed, right? And those are just a scenario. Well, now your physical is limiting. And so I see that as a metaphor for how you're now, you know, guiding and leading men, right? To be able to hold space in a environment and a container that shows safety and security, but also, you know, sharing your truth to help somebody else be able to open and invite them to share theirs. That's the biggest challenge I've seen in the men's work, is there's no safe container to be able to share, hey, I'm drinking too much, I'm unhealthy. As a matter of fact, my wife and I are not intimate, we don't have connection, and I don't know how to, you know, find ways to spend time with my daughter, right? All male, men's, masculine, right? Powerful realities. This unintended shift in your health has almost challenged you to sit more and create these spaces and these environments, right? Yeah. What would you say to the guy right now who is all, you know, man, right? And, you know, healthy or unhealthy, there's not a lot of time, energy, or even resources spent on the internal, right? On the intrinsic part of who he is. He's physically strong. Maybe he's got some mental strength, right? Yeah. But the emotional and the spiritual is definitely lacking.
Yeah, yeah. Surrounded by men who are alpha male type or loud, have defined success in a way of like how deep my pockets are, or, you know, a lot of different ways. You know, like even for myself, you know, I'm a fucking retired master sergeant in the Marines, you know, like, hoorah, you know, like, hell yeah. You know, I can handle a lot. It's okay to not be okay. It is. It really is. I have a tattoo. Not all wounds are visible. You know, like, there's a lot of shit I know you're carrying. And you don't have to carry it alone. You don't. And that's okay. It's okay to put yourself in a situation to be seen. I know it's hard because you probably have shame on the mistakes you've made, the thoughts that you have, and the stuff that you're doing in the shadows. But it's fucking okay. Like, it's okay. That's the environment that I'm creating. Is for you to come and talk about those things. Because it doesn't go anywhere other than with us. It's for you. It's not for me. This is for you to say it out loud because you're probably carrying that shit in a pack up a hill and you have no one to talk to about it other than your own self and your own thoughts. And it shows up more than you think in how you behave in order to protect that part of yourself. It does show up. And you probably are not slowing down enough to even see that shit. And you probably don't have the people around you who are willing to say that shit because they're bracing at how you're going to react. And they're scared. And they won't say it either.
How has this Rich changed and shifted his legacy as a girl dad? and how they see you and how you connect with them now? Because I got to imagine, you know, there was a time where I probably had a lot of anger and rage. And I know it came out in a very unhealthy way around my family and my kids.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where, you know, I'd regret everything I said and did for 6 months. And then I'd be in the safe zone like Bruce Banner before he became Hulk. And then one moment, all of a sudden, I'm turning green.
Yeah.
And I'm Hulk smashing shit. And then I feel like I'm 5 years old all over again.
Yeah.
And then I got to make amends and apologize for the next couple months.
Yeah.
That pattern was existent for a few years.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but a few years. And I've, you know, like you, shifted a lot of that anger energy into emotional intelligence and understanding that I don't have to solve all problems with, you know, my hands, my fist, or my words.
Yeah.
And be a lot less shifted by my emotions. And so I know that my kids both see me now in a different light than maybe they did for a few of those years.
Mm-hmm.
How has this version of you bled into your family's legacy and your girls being at home, and even your youngest, how she sees and talks to you now?
You know, before I go there, just spending the last 5 or 6 years like with you and witnessing you as a man and how this program has evolved. You know, there's an aspect that you remembered and that I see now is like the softness, the gentleness, the things that you probably desired when you were 5 years old. You know, and I see that in you now. But I also see so much strength and courage and being able to witness both of those things be true in how you show up now. It's fucking amazing. And I know it's felt by your kids and your wife and the people that choose to keep coming around you. That's why we keep choosing to come around you, Luke, I know. And a lot of people on the outside looking in, and they can probably do all this Google stuff about like what Fathers of the Future is or what this Crucible stuff is. And it's like we talked about outside, like, all right, well, if it doesn't feel like it's aligned for you, then it's not for you. Some men need a little bit to be jolted a little bit. Some men need to be a little bit dysregulated to come out on the other end of like understanding like why, you know. But being able to witness you having that softness and that strength coexist, and that's how you show up now. Like you're aware, you're evolving. You go back to share your story a lot about your father, or you're fatherless. You know, this phantom. you know, is you going back and providing yourself with all those things. And that's why you show up the way that you do now. And it's fucking been an amazing thing to witness you evolve to this man that you are now, to have this environment where we can just show up and be who I need to be. And that's why men need to come out and fucking just witness that too. It's so important. There's so much power in that. And I know my girls feel that. I know Stella has felt that. She's told me, like, she's able to just share what she feels, what she's thinking, and she doesn't have to brace anymore. She doesn't have to hold back. She doesn't have to put her thoughts and her feelings through this filter because she's trying to manage how I feel, or how I'm going to respond, or how I'm going to defend that, or how I'm going to try to solution or logic my way out of this fucking situation. You know, I'm just going to allow her to just fall into this container that I've created for myself, so she can just fall in however she needs to, so my kids can just fall in however they need to and express themselves to the full capacity of how they need to express themselves, and tell them it's okay, do more, you know, what's going on, what else, just let it fall out. By just doing that, again, shutting the fuck up, slowing down and just listening, like literally just doing that and allowing them to just be who they need to be has it's a game changer in my family. Like, my girls can operate in a place where they can fully express themselves. It still pisses me off. Mm-hmm. It's still fucking uncomfortable to me, but I'm able to contain it a lot better than what I did 5 years ago. You know, like, use your voice. Like, don't use your fucking voice. I'm gonna fucking throw you out the window. Like,
can you say you have not passed on the generational trauma? Your dad being also a Marine, also drinking, and you becoming highly aware of that in you and not passing or projecting that on?
Yeah. I'm more aware of it now. I'm more intentional of like what I'm doing and how I operate. But my girls carry all the shit. Mm-hmm. It's all in them. I see it, and all these things I'm talking about are like all these parts of who I am. Like, I go back to my 13-year-old self. I go back to my 8-year-old self. More recently, I went back to my 3-year-old self. Mm-hmm. I haven't sat with my 3-year-old self yet, but I'm gonna go back to him. I told him I'm here. Mm-hmm. Say it's me. You know, I'm 46. I just let him know, like, I'm not stuck at 3. And I'll be back, but I'm here now. Mm-hmm. You know, and I know my girls have that. I know they all do. I know because there was versions of me when they were young that didn't align with who I was meant to be, you know, and I know that, and I see that in them. And by creating an environment where they can fully express themselves, clears that space for them to go back and unburden like all the shit that I've given them, like that they carry from me, from my fathers, from, you know, so forth and so on, the lineage, the ancestors, you know, and all those things, you know. But and helping them understand that all the stuff that I passed down it's not all like what we would call bad. Mm-hmm. They're just all like there's some fucking powerful shit there too. Mm-hmm. Because of what I experienced, so much strength came out of that too. You know, so there's a lot. I talked about like all the shitty times and then all the great times too. All that is in them as well. And it's not about trying to become or trying to understand or figure it out. It's just remembering. Like, I talk about like my 3-year-old self. I remember how I felt at 3 years old. There was like so much freedom in myself. There was so much joy. There was so much unknowing of like what the world was getting ready to hand me. But the feeling of like, man, I don't have a worry in the world. Like, I'm good. That feeling is there in all of us. I know it's there in me, and I remember that. It's just as I face the world or I face the challenges that are in front of me, it's still difficult. Like, I still have emotional reactions. I still get emotionally charged. The way that I face it is different, though. The way that I square up to it is different now. I'm not looking for a fight. I'm just looking to just kind of contain what's in front of me first, and then go from there. However I need to show up, like I talked about, like not to be a coach, like I gotta fucking coach my girls out of this, or I gotta be this husband and protect her. I gotta protect her. No, I'm gonna be whoever I need to be in the moment. I'm gonna trust I've learned to get to a point to where I can trust myself, and I'm still learning how to trust myself to be able to show up however I need to say. If I need to say something, then I'm going to say it. If I just need to reflect back to what they say, I'm going to do that. If I just need to shut the fuck up, I'm just going to do that. If I just need to hold them, I'm going to do that. It's just not about like having this hard expectation.
One size fits all.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be that way. I just need to be who I need to be in the moment that I'm facing right now, and trust that. That's the hard part, is like trusting that part of like, of that feeling, that pull of like, what do I need to do? Like the pull, the push. I see it in you, how when you're coaching other men or doing things, knowing when to push and knowing when to kind of pull them in. You know, knowing when to call out their bullshit or calling them in, inviting them in. You know, it's that trust of that you have from the work that you've been doing. You learn to trust yourself through the reps, right?
David Data, author of The Way of the Superior Man, still one of my top 10 books of all time. I heard him say at a live event years ago, we have inherited the history of mankind. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I make this like, you know, arrow through the heart type gesture when you hear that, because when I coach young men, teenagers, they don't realize that. And so they're thinking that all these thoughts and feelings and emotions are theirs and only theirs, and they're the only one experience it. And I just, like you said, remind them, you know, you're human. And at 15, you've only been human for a very short time. You don't know that yet about yourself. You don't have that understanding. That does take time. And so that's the aha moment in many ways, where, hey, you may not have passed on some of those things that were not suited to you when you were younger, but there are some things that you have passed on, that your dad passed on, that your grandfather passed on. You know, I say it all the time, because my son had and has a great dad doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be one. Right? Because I didn't have one, the math says I shouldn't be one. Mm-hmm. Right? But we've changed and shifted that. You're writing your legacy. And so I'll leave with one big question here, right, for you. Not the end of your life, not the beginning, not where you're at right now, but in this next stage and phase, let's call it 5 years. If you were on this show 5 years ago, and now we look at the next 5 years, what does Rich need to do to fulfill what he's here to do as a next step progression for you in these next 5 years? And if you come back on this show 5 years from now, looking back, what were some of the things that you needed to do, the direction you needed to change and shift, and ultimately who you must become in this next 5 years?
That's a lot. Because like, you look back at the last 5 years, it was a lot. And, you know, this year is like Stella and I's 15th year wedding anniversary, actually in a couple weeks here. And we look back at the last 15 and we're like, holy shit. You know, it's like, and then you start thinking about like, what was the next 15 look like? You know, and you fast forward to 5 years from now and you think about what you've done up until this point and how that ripple's going to look over the next 5 years is a lot of unknowns, you know. And I always joke around, I was like, I don't even know what I'm fucking doing after this, you know. So it's tough. It's tough, you know, because if you're a family man, I mean, just anybody, like just experience life and interacting with other people, like there's too many unknowns to be able to map out and roadmap what the next 5 years are going to look like. You can have an idea. You can create a target, your lateral limits of like, this is what my field of view looks like. You can do that. But if you get stuck on the way that it should look for you, you're going to get stuck.
No flow.
You're going to get stuck. If you say, I want to be a better husband or a better father and all those things, like I want those things too, you know, but that's like surface shit, you know, like why is that important to me? It's like you mentioned about like what my girls are carrying from for all the things that they've experienced, you know, from me and from Stella, from my parents, her parents, like all the things is like, I want them to, they're going to carry what I embody. And then in the next 5 years, their lives are going to be completely different because Allie's going to be, gosh, 25. Layla will be 20. Olivia will be 16, you know, and they're going to be completely different as well, you know. And if I'm so stuck on how it's going to look in 5 years and I get stuck and I don't allow myself to flow, how's that going to influence them? Because they're going to carry what I embody, right? And the reason why I do the work that I do to connect with myself and all the parts of myself, the sadness, the anger, the joy, the 13-year-old self, the young Marine self, the close to retirement self, the fucking dude from last year that got a fucking brick thrown at me where it put me on my ass self. If I don't go back and try to connect with those things, I'm going to get stuck. Going back and connecting with those parts of myself and saying, I see you and I'm here now. That's going to be good. And then going back and having that relationship with myself will teach, my girls will see that. They'll feel that without even me telling them. And then in the next 5 years, that's what I see. I see themselves being able to understand that it starts with them. It starts with going back and unraveling like all the shit that they carry with them without even having a choice of what they're carrying with them because of the shit the environment that I created for them growing up, and the stuff that all the things, just all the things, you know, and for them to have the courage and the honesty and the acceptance and taking ownership and understanding that it's all sacred, for them to have that relationship with themselves, because it starts with them. It puts them in a position where they get to choose now. And the survival and the performance of how they show up can slowly just kind of still be there, because it's always going to be an aspect of who I am. And I know they do it too, because they want to fit in, they want to belong, they want to be accepted, they want to be loved, they want to feel like they're worth something to people and outside of themselves. And I see that too, and I get that. But for them to see how Stella and I operate, to reconnect with ourselves, to reparent ourselves, to love ourselves, and showing up that way, to be a little bit more gentle and strong with how we parent with them. It's not gentle parenting. It's a gentle way of exchanging energy with them. It's softer. It's a container for them. That's how I explain it. It's a container for them to just fall in however they need to. They'll feel that, and then they'll learn to be gentle with themselves. They'll learn to have a relationship with themselves and connect with themselves. And then they get to choose how the relationships outside of themselves look. They choose now. And if somebody chooses to be in their life, they get to choose how that looks too. And that comes with boundaries and all the things, you know, but that's the thing. In the next 5 years is me really having a deeper relationship with myself and reconnecting with all the parts of myself and accepting those parts of myself and loosening the grip of everything that I carry and putting my fucking pack down and going back and pulling the stuff out that I need it when I need it, and going back there to revisit those things and reparent and love and provide and give all the things that I needed for myself at those points in my life. It's just that. And they're going to feel that, and they're going to carry that.
Rich Abril, it's been honorable to witness you rise. I'm appreciative, we're appreciative for your service in the United States military. Thank you for being a man of integrity and honor and resilience. You may not know this as much as I do, but myself and a lot of the men who have known you over these past 6 years that are part of the Fathers of the Future movement look up to you as a guide, a teacher, a mentor, a tier one, a brother. And I just wanted to say thank you for being you. You've helped me improve my life and raise my game as a man. I love you, brother.
Oh, I love you too, brother.
If you got something great out of this, all we ask in return is that you pay it forward. If you know somebody out there who is struggling with their mental health, if they feel isolated or alone, if they're in the military, they're a veteran, they're a first responder, a police officer, and they feel like they don't have a resource to talk to, this program, this podcast, Fathers of the Future, and this man right here, Rich Abril, are all open resources for you, and you're not alone. We appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Peace.